My father-in-law had smoked since he was a little boy. He smoked a lot. When I first met him, I don't know how old he was. He was knocking on a bit, but he was depending on an oxygen cylinder to keep him alive. He had the most horrendous cough in the mornings, which lasted for an hour or two. He was on inhalers and was chronically ill with asthma. The damage was done. Most days he could only just manage towards the end of his very short street. Sometimes he could do more than that. But funnily enough, at the end of the street there was a pub. A few years later, when I was visiting Frank, he was out in his garden shed where he fiddled about with amateur radio, and I popped out there and we had a chat. And I don't know how or why, but we got onto the subject of life, death, God, salvation. He told me that he was not born again, and he decided that he wanted to be. And so I prayed with him there and then, and he gave his life up for the Lord Jesus, who had given his life as a ransom for us. A couple of years later, though, my wife took a phone call. Her father, Frank, had been taken into hospital and he was not expected to live. We lived 200 miles away, so we made arrangements to drop the children off with carers and headed down the motorway as fast as was safe. When we were within 10 minutes drive of the hospital, the Lord said to me very clearly that Frank has gone. And I knew that he died at that point, and he was now with the Lord. I checked the time on my wristwatch and drove on. When we reached the ward, the sister came up to us and she said, "I'm very sorry, but your father died 10 minutes ago, the exact time." I later checked the time of death and it was the exact time that I noted on my watch. God had spoken to me at the time Frank had died. As a result, I can be absolutely certain that Frank is there in heaven, singing, running, dancing, whatever he may be doing, with a brand new pair of resurrection lungs forever and ever. Another interesting thing is that when we arrived at Frank's bed, he was still laid out and rigor mortis had set in. They hadn't actually moved him. He died and they left him there because his wife was by his side. And he was sat propped up against a stack of pillows, and he died looking up and reaching out, as though he was stretching out towards something, trying to take hold of something. He clearly looked as though he'd seen something that he wanted, and he didn't look distressed at all. Apparently it's reported that Thomas Edison, the well-known, excellent scientist and true believer in Jesus, died saying, "It's very beautiful over there," whilst he pointed into the distance. There are many other instances of people revealing the life to come at the point of death. Whatever you make of this, for me this was one of the most incredible events of my entire life, and it probably always will be. The fact is, salvation is real. Jesus came to seek and to save the lost.